Shalom. All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kakadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And this is Shir Shalom to all the Akim out here that's doing and pushing this work in truth and in sincerity. I want to go on in this video that some Jake have main character syndrome. Okay. And let's get what main character syndrome is, okay, from Google.
Main character syndrome is an informal term for seeing yourself as the main character in your life story. It can involve...
So yeah, as you see on the screen, okay, thinking that you're the main character, okay, and life, okay, the world revolves around you, okay. And it says the characteristics of it is self-centeredness, with prioritizing your own needs and experiences over those of others, attention-seeking, right? Over-dramatization, lack of empathy, inflated self-importance. Okay. It says it's not a clinical diagnosis, right? Which, just because the clinic or, what they would call experts don't diagnose this with people, doesn't mean that it's not a demon out there, that is on people. Okay. It says it shares similarities with narcissistic. Okay. But it's not the same thing. But this is one of the things, that Jake, that coming to the truth, they don't change their mind. They don't change their mindset. Okay? A lot of women, they have main character syndrome. They think that, that their, crap don't stink. Okay? But Romans 12:1, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, right? Holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. We were put here on this planet to be servants, okay? We're supposed to serve the Most High and His Son, okay? It says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And that goes into us being of the hopeful elect. Okay? That we doing what the Lord wants from us, got the right mindset, okay, towards the Lord. Okay, and that, we continue on, then, we might be of the elect, which is a blessing that we didn't do of ourselves. It's the gift that we have of faith is a gift. That's what it is. It's not something that, we woke up and say, I want to be Israelite, I want to be, the man and the camp and all that stuff. But some guys, they come into the truth with that mindset. They want the woman, they want the notoriety, okay? But they can't handle the pressure that comes along with being in it, okay? And best believe you're going to get a lot of pressure. But here it goes. It says, for I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as Yahweh Shem Yahushua has dealt to every man the measure of faith. Okay, so different brothers have different measures of faith. Okay, but when you think higher than what you think you are, then you going the hell off. Okay, and that's just plain straight to the point. Okay. Now, I asked ChatGPT, Okay? About what does the Bible say about main character syndrome, right? And it says it talks about the spirit behind it. People who see themselves as the center of everything, crave attention, or elevate themselves over others, right? It says the Bible warns against making yourself the center, right? Philippians 2 and 3, it says, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind. Let each esteem each other better than themselves. And that's a brotherly mindset to have. Okay? You ain't looking for all the credit. Jake want all the credit. And then yours. Okay? It says people with main character syndrome often crave vainglory, the spotlight, validation, importance. And, in this world, all this stuff is, in danger of being destroyed. Okay? So why would you want any type of credit or notarization in this society when when we know that, this thing is, pointless? It's not, riches that'll last forever. Okay? It says, Yahweh Shemi Shah resist people who exalt themselves. Okay? Proverbs 16 and 18. Pride goes before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. My bad. It says, Luke 14 and 11. Whosoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted. So being humble in this truth is, the way to go. Okay? And, whoever we may be in the spirit, okay, it'll be revealed. Okay? You will want to be revealed as a real man of the Lord, not coming back and finding out that you was a demon in your past life, or even this life, because you didn't make it as a 2/3. People who die and they come back, right? They're gonna realize that, oh shoot, I was this person in my past life. I was shaming the prophets, or because you thought that you were special, and find out that you're not. Okay? So it's dangerous to be, in that mindset that you are considered something, man. Okay? You the only one who you and your mother, your father, if you're even around, we under these curses, man. Okay? It says the Bible calls this attitude selfish ambition. Okay? James 3 and 16 says, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. Okay? And that's, the mindset of somebody who has main character syndrome. Okay? They're going to be contending with, so many different people. And let's say there's two people who have, main character syndrome going at it. It's going to be strife, and they're going to be going back and forth with each other. Okay? It says self-centeredness leads to conflict and confusion. Exactly what happens when someone thinks the world revolves around them. Some people see themselves as more important than they really are. Okay? Yahweh Shemi Shah says, be realistic, be humble, stay grounded. It says the Pharisees had main character syndrome. Yahweh Shah said they loved attention, loved the best seats, loved being seen, loved titles. It says Everything they did was to be seen of men. This is exactly what main character syndrome looks like in the Bible. Okay? You see a lot of these, camp heads and other camps, they think that they're the main character, riding on horses, and if the truth ends up commanding General Yohana, come on now. Where does that see that in the Bible? You had the Comforter, the guy God sent Comforter, thinking you were main character, and where he at? He in the spirit world right now. So all those people who was, following after him, what do you do now? Okay? It says God causes people to be servants, not stars. Mark 10:43-44 says, whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister, servant of all. Greatness isn't based on being the main character, but on serving with humility. People who glorify themselves steal God's glory. And the Lord, in Isaiah 42:8, said that I will not give my glory unto another. So he ain't going to let nobody else take his glory. Okay? If someone makes themselves the star of the story, they're competing, or they start competing with Yahweh Shem Yahushua for attention, credit, and honor, and you're going to lose that. You're going to lose that battle. Okay? So, it said, if somebody does have that, you don't feed their ego, you set boundaries, you respond with humility, not competition. Okay? Correct them privately if appropriate. Okay? Pray for them. Okay? This could be a potential brother. Okay? Signs you might be developing spiritual pride. You get irritated when you don't get recognition. Okay? You compare yourself to others to feel superior. It says you take credit for things that were really God's doing. Okay? It says you talk more than you listen. Correction offends you. You only see yourself as the hero in every situation. It says biblical characters who had main character syndrome and got humbled. King Nebuchadnezzar, right? And the Lord humbled him, made, feathers come out of his, his skin. Okay? Had long nails, He was living like an animal, right? It says King Saul could not handle others getting praised, right? When King David was, getting praised, King Saul got jealous of that, right? The Pharisees are spiritual celebrities. Herod accepted praise as if he was a god. Lucifer, right? This is Esau, okay? So, that's pretty much the point, man. I got this right fast. I'm gonna get this to close the lesson. This is the book of Isaiah 2:11. It says, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. So in the day of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is the only one that's going to be exalted. Okay? No matter if, it's somebody's birthday or whatever the case may be, that's going to be the Lord's day. Okay? So, pretty much that's it, man. Okay? Lord willing, this was edifying. Till next day, I want to say shalom.